So you guys just saw my singles again from this week. They were 307.5 kilos, 678 pounds on squat, and 310 kilos, 683 pounds on the deadlift. So talk about the squat first. It wasn't that great. It moved okay, but I also cut it high, and I could feel it when I did it. I don't know if it was included in the video, but I shook my head after I re-racked it, and yeah, I just knew instantly I cut it high. And just something I'm gonna have to clean up this week. Whatever. Still, I guess I will be happy moving that weight, even if it was a bit high. And as for the deadlift, it moved sort of like my 305 kilo single 2 weeks ago, so it didn't move the greatest, but overall, still smooth. No major issues. I'm still happy with that. Happy to keep pushing these. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep going what I have been doing with the 2.5 kilo each week. I think I might dial that back this week and also start upping my squat volume a bit. My squat volume has been super low. I think I mentioned it a few videos ago, but basically one day I work up to a single, that's it, cut it there. My other day is I do a 3x2 on pause squats, and that's it. And I actually did that workout today as I'm recording this video. But what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to dial back to single somewhere in the 290 to 300 kilo range on squats, similar on deadlifts, probably 5 kilos more, increase the gap a bit between the two. And I'm going to start doing more volume on the squats, on the back offs. I'll probably do something like a 2x2 at around 550 pounds, something like that, something easy. Get a bit more volume in. I've been hesitant to add volume because of my knee, but my knee at this point, it doesn't feel anything at all. So I think I'm good to start slowly reintroducing more and more volume. On deadlifts, I'm already doing back offs after that top single. After this week, I did a 3x3 at 265 kilos, which is 583 pounds, I believe. And it's moving well, so happy with how those lifts are going. And now I'll move on to the question of the week that I want to answer. So I got a bunch of questions this week that I can't go over all in this video. What I do want to go over is one big question I got is my programming history to get to where I am now. So to give you a rough timeline of when I started is the summer of 2014, around June, July, around then is when I started. And as I told you guys last video, it took me about 3 months, 4 months to get to 315. I maxed out in October, I remember, start of October, right before my birthday. So 315 squat and deadlift, and I think 175 pounds on bench is what I hit. I know for sure on squat and deadlift, that's what I hit. So the programming I did to get to that is just starting strength. So it's basic 3x5 squat every day, alternating between 3x5 on bench and OHP, and then 3x5 on deadlifts and rows. And I was also adding in curls on top of that, and I literally did a 3x5 on curls. I'm probably the only person ever do 3x5 on curls. Because I was thinking like, oh, I want to do curls for a bit of extra hypertrophy. What rep scheme should I do? Oh, 3x5, right? That's the best rep scheme. So you can see how much I knew about programming then. And that's what I did. And it worked very well. Got to those numbers pretty quickly, 315. I think that's pretty good for 4 months of training. The issue is I kept doing that after that. So until around March of the following year, so that's another 5 months, I kept doing starting strength. And the issue with that is starting strength, it's really not enough volume to drive progression beyond the beginner, like real beginner level. You know, 3x5 bench 1.5 times a week is not nearly enough volume for people to progress on. So after that, I tried to max out again. I did 10 pounds on my squat, nothing to my bench and deadlift. And I was like, wow, this really sucks. So I started looking into a new program to try and change it up. And what I came across was the Bulgarian method by Greg Nuckols. If you're unfamiliar with that, basically what you do is 6 days a week on squat, and I did it on bench too. You'd work up to a heavy single that's like RP 8 or 9 or so. And then after that, you do like 2 or 3 sets of 2 or 3 reps, just like back offs. And what I eventually was doing was, I think what I did was 1x1 and then 2x2 back offs or 2x3 back offs. That's what I did. And then you do that 6 times a week. So you're going heavy 6 days a week. And then that one other day would be my deadlift day. And back then I used to play rugby. We'd also have rugby games once a week, so that was my rugby game day. So I'd go in and do my rugby game and then come out and deadlift. And so that program was 50-50 for me. It did make my squat go up in the short term. Bench to a bit, even shorter term, it went up a bit. I got up to like 195, which was good after plateauing for a year, but it just basically plateaued again right after. Squats went pretty well. I got up to around, I want to say 350, 360 range doing that. And it worked pretty well. I was fairly happy with the results from that. Deadlifts really plateaued for that. And I think what was a big issue for me at that point on deadlifts was I had never used chalk up until that point. My gym didn't have chalk. I didn't own chalk. So my grip started slipping. I remember I was trying to do 300 for a set of 3 on conventional, and it's moving super easy, but I kept dropping it. Not dropping, I'd get to the halfway up and start slipping. I'd just go back down, right? So I started getting chalk because I had this friend who also got into powerlifting, and I was kind of oblivious to the world of powerlifting. I just kind of lifted, did what I wanted. I didn't know anything about big name lifters back then. Like, the only lifters I knew were like Alan Thrall, Omar Isuf. I think the only real powerlifters I knew were Greg Knuckles and Johnny Candido. And so I was pretty oblivious to, like, you needed chalk. Like, that's how little I knew. So I got chalk, and I also switched to sumo on my friend's recommendation. And the first time I tried pulling sumo, 20-pound PR, pretty easy. For me, conventional always just felt off. It was never like a natural movement for me. I think I'm just really not built for conventional. Squats for me always felt like a fine movement. Like, I never felt unnatural. Bench too, it never felt weird. But deadlifts had always felt weird. So I think once I switched to sumo, helped make a big difference. So that was my program then, Bulgarian for a while. And then after that, I started doing my own programming. First, I based it off Bulgarian, but I started doing more variations and stuff. And I also based it off Meg Ort, the deadlift program by Benedict Magnuson. And basically what that has you do is work up to a top double, and then you do some back off doubles that are really light. Well, at least I did it really light. I don't know Meg Ort offhand anymore. It could be heavy in retrospect. I might be wrong here, but that's what I did. I went with really light doubles, and I just do a ton of back off volume. I do like 8 doubles after my top set, and I just work format like that. And I do squat, deadlift alternating each day, and bench I would do with squats, and then on my deadlift day I just do back accessories after. Ton of back volume, pull-ups, rows, the standard back stuff. And that worked pretty well. So by the point I started doing that programming, like I said, I think I was around 365 max on squat, around probably similar on deadlift, even though I hadn't tested it. Bench was around 200 pounds. It worked pretty well on squat and deadlift. By the time I had done my first meet, it was 2015, the fall of 2015. And my friend, that friend I mentioned who introduced me to chalk, also said, hey, I'm doing a powerlifting meet. You're pretty strong. You should do one too. You want to do this one with me? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I signed up for it, and I did Smolov to prep for it on squats and bench. And then deadlift, I literally looked up deadlift peaking program and found one on tnation.com. I don't even know if people use tnation.com. It was basically an old lifting site. And it sucked, basically. I feel like a lot of programming is written for people who are unnatural lifters on steroids, and you don't get the same results if you're a natural lifter. Like, you need more volume, basically, if you're a natural lifter. And so I did the deadlift program that they had peaking, and it sucked. So I swapped it out halfway for just like I do 5 doubles each day, and it worked great on my deadlift. And so I did my first meet. I squatted 191.5 kilos. My bench, I hit 82.5 kilos, my only official lift, my opener. I hit my second bench, 92.5 kilos, but my heels came up, so it got red lighted. And then my third was 102.5 kilos. I missed on strength. Deadlifts, I got 200 kilos, and then I got 210 kilos up, but I leaned back a ton at lockout, so my knees got soft, and so it didn't count 2-to-1. And so that was my first meet. So after that, I kept doing my high volume experiment, and I would do absurd amounts of volume. Like, I'd just be in there each day doing that double top set, and then like 8 to 10 sets of doubles. And eventually, like, I just kept adding volume cycle to cycle, and there'd be more variations I wanted to try. Like, I eventually started seeing on Reddit. I used to be on Reddit powerlifting a lot. All these different variations. People were doing like deficits, pauses, snatch grips, stiff legs, block pulls, like, and I thought I can't decide which one I want to do, so I'll do all of them. And it got to the point where I was doing an absurd amount of volume, and I'd be at the gym for like over 5 hours. Like, I remember my deadlift program used to be 17 sets every day of deadlifts. And that didn't include accessories. I'd be doing rows after, I'd be doing pull-ups, I'd be doing face pulls, I'd be doing band pull-aparts. Like, I'm just doing absurd amounts of volume. It was ridiculous. It was overkill. But keep in mind, during this time period, I'm a high school student, and I'm not gonna lie, high school is not that hard. Like, you can put in such minimal effort. You just show up, you vaguely pay attention in class, you study like an hour the day before the test, and you're gonna get decent grades. That's what I did. I had like a 70 average, and that was perfectly fine for me. So I could put basically all of my effort into lifting. I didn't have a job. I didn't really have many responsibilities around the house. Like, I just like do basic chores. So like all my effort at this point is going into lifting. So I can just basically lift all day, eat, drink, sleep, get good like diet, everything. My recovery is on point. I don't have stressors, and I was kind of pretty antisocial in high school, so I wasn't going out with friends a lot. You know, all my efforts going into lifting. So that enabled me to do all that volume and really, really push myself. And I think that's honestly the reason I am where I am today, because I had this period where I was doing absurd amounts of volume, and because of my outside situation, I was able to recover from it. And also keep in mind, you're going through puberty at this point. Your testosterone levels are so big naturally, you can recover from it easily. So that was my programming history then. Trying to think when I stopped this. Right. So around the time I maxed out at a 585-pound squat, I've been competing for a few years at this point. This is probably around 2018, I think. And I have a 585-pound squat, 600-pound deadlift. My bench is 315. I go back to high frequency programming. So at this point between Bulgaria until now, I've been doing about 3 times on squat, deadlift, and 3 times on bench also. So now I'm going back to high frequency. And the reason I did that is because I found one study that showed high frequency programming was better. It was the Norwegian powerlifting study. You can search it up. There's articles on it. And so I wanted to go back to high frequency. And at this point, I developed patellar tendonitis in both my knees. No surprise of the stupid amount of volume I was doing. So I had thought that maybe if I did this high frequency, it would help my knees. Like if I split the volume up over more days, the same amount of volume. So that's what I did. I just split the same amount of volume I was doing over more days, reduced the intensity a bit, and just went with that. And within 2 weeks, my patellar tendonitis had gone to the point of half my sessions I can't finish to nothing, absolutely nothing. And I think the high frequency really helped me there. So at this point, I do my high frequency programming. I'm doing a single once a week. It's not super heavy. It was around 90%, which is usually around the 5 rep max for me. So I guess you would say it was an RP6, maybe RP7 single usually, depending on fatigue. It's pretty easy. And I just did this linear progression for a while. And by the fall of 2018, now let me just think for a second the timeline here, if it was 2017. So no, it was 2017 I started this, and 2018 now at this point. Sorry about that. So I started the high frequency in 2017. It's 2018 now that I start to max out again, and I ended up hitting a 300 kilo squat at my university gym, and that was like 30-pound PR for me. And at this point, I'm not relatively well known. Not that I'm calling myself like famous now, but like I've got 20,000 followers, something like that on Instagram, and back then I had under 700, I believe. And I got reposted on King of the Lifts that day, the 300 kilo squat, and it was insane how quickly the amount of followers I got. I was getting like 6 a minute, and yeah, within like a month I was at 3,000 because I kept getting reposted. My deadlifts blew up. I hit 700 right around then after a year of this high frequency programming. It was just insane. I really blew up, and I kept going. I hit like some insane sets. Like I hit a 7-plate squat. I hit 700 for 5 on deadlift. I hit 765 for 1 on deadlift. It was just insanely quick progress at this point. And part of that was that submaximal training had helped a ton. But a big part is, and this is something I don't think nearly anybody talks about, except certain members of IPF powerlifting really talk about it. But the difference between a stiff bar and calibrated plates with, like, say, no straps on deadlift, 2 proper depth on squat, with a full competition pause on bench press, versus the stuff you can hit in the gym with straps, a whippy bar, pound plates that probably don't weigh what they actually weigh because they're worn out. It's huge. It makes a huge difference in your strength levels. And that's part of why my numbers got so big in that time, is because the standard had been lowered. And that's something I really think, if you're somebody who's going to compete in powerlifting, you should really consider trying to find access to a full competition setup if you can. It really makes a huge difference, especially the stronger you get. So I kept working that 6 times a week program until my Canadian Nationals, which is in 2018. 2018, let me think. Yes, 2018. And no, 2019, sorry. March of 2019. And I got incredibly sick. I've never been that sick in my life before. I was literally going to the bathroom to try and take a shit, and it was literally all blood for 4 days straight. And I was worried I was going to go to the hospital. And the only reason I didn't was because I thought, if I go to the hospital, they're not going to let me lift. Like, I'm not going to be allowed to lift because they're going to be like, you're literally shitting blood. You need to stay here. So I've never been that sick in my life. I had a terrible meet, and basically where this comes in is I couldn't maintain that 6 times a week programming after that on bench, squat, and deadlift. So I kept doing bench 6 days a week, and I think that's very actually attainable for most people, as long as you keep it really submaximal. And that's what I do. Like, my bench program right now, I like never go above RP 5 even. Like, I just keep it super submaximal, high frequency, good amount of volume, and you'll find a ton of progress on your bench, especially if you add in good amount of hypertrophy accessories, stuff like triceps extensions, some shoulder work. Just really push the volume there, and it will make a huge difference on your bench. So 6 times a week bench, 3 times squat and deadlift I'm doing, and I've basically just done variations of that until now. So my programming is super submaximal overall. So what I'm literally doing right now is I'm squatting twice a week, as I said. That one day is a single, probably gonna add back offs now. My other day is 3x2 paused. My deadlifts, I'm doing 4 days a week. Normally I do 3, but since my squat volume is temporarily lowered, I thought, let's try upping deadlift volume. It's worked well so far. So day 1, I do my single, and then 3 sets of 2 to 4 reps, back offs. My second day is my hypertrophy day. It's I do snatch grip conventional deadlifts, 3 sets of 6 to 8, super easy. Gets a good pump in my hamstrings and back. You know, it's not super fatiguing. Pretty easy day. So that's another reason why the 4 times a week deadlift is actually doable, because I'm not actually going super heavy every day. Third day is pause deadlifts. I do 3x4 to 6 and 4 to 6 reps, that is. And my fourth day, I do 3x4 to 6 again on deficit deadlifts. So that's my deadlift programming right now. Pretty simple, basic. What I do is I work up that rep range. So like on the days I do the 3x4 to 6, week 1 is 4 reps. Week 2, 5 reps. Week 3, 6 reps. Week 4, I reset to 4 reps and add weight. Pretty simple. It's working for me. So that's basically my programming up until this point. I'm going to link a spreadsheet that I did in Google Docs that talks about that 6 times a week frequency I was doing my programming, and you guys can check it out. So that's basically all, guys. If you have any other questions, let me know and I'll go over them in the next video or reply to the comment. Please subscribe if you haven't, and like the video. It helps me a ton, and thanks for watching, guys.